I'd like to welcome everybody to our agenda review, our September 26th agenda review. Ms. Bowie, would you please call the roll?
Good afternoon. Pete Wildebohr.
Present.
Pat Bradford.
I am here.
Josie Barnhart.
Here.
Stephanie Craybill.
Here.
Melissa Mason.
Here.
Stephanie Walker.
Here.
Hugh McManus.
Hugh McManus had a,
He's going to join on
he's
Zoom.
going to join on Zoom, but he had a procedure today, so he's not able to be here. Mr. McManus, you with us?
I heard him say.
Karen said that she was making him go on. So,
He's here.
There he is. Hey, I hear you. All right, the gang's all here. Very good. Next, we will have our invocation.
Who inspires learning.
What's going on?
God of inspires learning, curiosity, and ignites the intellect of all people. Let us pray. God of wonder and words, who inspires learning and curiosity and who ignites the intellect of all people, empower the work of this Board of Education with wisdom, discernment, and humility, that the children in our care may thrive in true knowledge, that educators may be empowered and continually inspired, that parents may engage in the enterprise of learning with their kids, and that our entire Wilmington community may joyfully take ownership for the advancement of every student, to the glory of your name and to the blessing of the world, through Jesus Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll give everybody just a minute to get everybody back on. Fastest zooming in the west, or the east, or the south. There's Mr. Vogel. Hello, Mr. Vogel. You can't hear me? That's okay? Okay. Let me know when Mr. McManus gets back on. Oh, is he? Okay. All right, then we can go ahead and go on. We have it. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
A motion, is there a
second.
second? Give a first and second, any discussion? Not all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Passes 7-0. You see Mr. McManus is back on? We'll move on to the review of proposed agenda items. Again, as before, we'll go through them. If there's anything that you'd like to stop and discuss, please just say, stop me, we'll discuss it at that point. We're going to have a call to order, roll call, approve the agenda, invocation, presentation of colors, national anthem. Anybody like to sing that? Okay, but who would like to do the pledge?
I know I'm here.
Okay, Ms. Mason's on there. We can have Ms. Mason do that, that's fine. Melissa Mason. Mason will do the pledge, excellent. We do have the approval of the minutes after that. Student voice is going to be...
Question, do we have minutes? Because we're approving minutes today, so, and there were none attached, so I was just wondering, are we behind in minutes, or do we have any more, or?
Some more. We're actually doing the ones for today from
September.
because it needed to be done for Head Start.
Right, so what minutes are we gonna be, it doesn't say here, it just says meeting minutes with no attachment, so what minutes are we gonna be approving?
The ones that can be included in time for them to be posted. So I anticipate having the July regular board meeting and then an additional special meeting minutes as time.
Okay, so we do have some, okay.
Yeah. Carry on, that student voice has let us know that they will definitely be here. We're excited. We'll start with teacher voice, 5 minutes for that. Then we have recognition, October recognitions, administrative introductions. Dr. Barnes, yes and yes?
Yes and yes.
Like that. We've allotted 10 minutes for that.
Are you using the whole 10? I'm keeping track.
She's all right.
I can sing that song in 5 notes. I can get it done in 5 minutes.
So you can have 10.
No, I mean,
We're
if
gonna gavel you if you
I-
go over.
I've got 3 people to introduce, they're all set up and ready. It'll be
Okay.
good.
So we'll cut that back down to 5. That's wonderful. Superintendent's report, 5 minutes?
That's it, yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay. We're going to take a minute because our streaming is down right now. So we'll take a moment. We'll take a 2-minute break and then we'll come back.
Now we're gonna be 2 hours later.
Trying to get any chocolate on the way.
Was it because we logged out? So you said you had-
All right. You sure? Yeah, I'm waiting on you. Okay. Yeah, I forgot mine. I snooze, I lose, I know. I'm sorry. All right. We are back. Thank you very much. Ms. Bradford, you had a motion or a question?
Yes, Dr. Faust, when are we going to resume the goal setting? We suspended it that night, we never come back to it.
I'll talk about it.
Okay.
Closed session.
Close? Okay, very good. So you said 5 minutes is good for your superintendent's report. Picking up there, board chairperson's report, also 5 minutes, poll audience, 60 minutes. And again, Just to make sure everybody is aware, Ms. Bowie's done an outstanding job on the little sheet, but she's actually gonna add another little piece on there that says under the line if there are any open slots. So it's very clear that people can see that first 5 definitely have a slot. After that, it's if we have any open slots. So hopefully everybody shows up, but if they don't, then we can use those extra slots.
Question?
Ma'am?
Do we have the person out there to watch? Are we starting that to watch the sign up out front? So that it's,
Bowie, I think we're gonna
Dr.
have.
Faust said we had the ability to put a person on that. And then we talked about somebody to interpret. Those are a couple things we talked about at the last meeting that we would start to do.
Ms. Barnhart?
Part of the discussion I remember from the interpreters was if there was an option to sign up, that's where Sal's right there, when they were signing up to request if they needed an interpreter, so we could gather that and provide that if needed.
So just for call to audience and not the whole meeting?
Correct. I mean, that could be something I think the
Mr.
board.
Mr. Cardell, do we have an option, did we add that into where somebody could, as they sign up, can they check, or is there a drop down that says that they need an interpreter? Do we have that? Yes. Yes, okay, good. Okay, very good. Ms. Craybill?
Yeah, I don't recall us solidifying any of that call of the audience stuff. We all just kind of talked in generalities about that. And when I was playing back the meeting from the 5th, I didn't get that far. But we only talked in generalities because that was sort of lumped in with the ad hoc, but then we had to talk about it separately. So I don't know that we've actually decided that we're going to put somebody out there to check. Because that would be, Chuck would have to do that, or we'd have to put somebody there.
Well, what time are you, Ms. Bowie, what time are you going to put the sign up?
So, per board policy, it has to be presented 1 hour prior to the start of the meeting. So we always have it outside for participants to sign up at 4 p.m. And then right as you're calling the meeting to order, Mr. Silverstein removes the sign up and then he notifies the actual sheet ready to upload or update.
Do you have any recommendations on how best to do it out there? No getting in the weeds, but.
We do not typically open the doors until around 4:40, 4:45. So it would need to be on the outside of the door. So I think that would be to the will of the board as to how, they want to manage that. We can see about oversight. I'm not sure what Mr. Anderson is thinking about when Mr. Silverstein typically comes over. We can certainly support the sign-up however the board wishes for it to be.
Okay, Ms. Walker?
So I'm curious what's wrong with the current sign up out there, because I feel like people by now know it goes up an hour ahead and some people will line up. So, I mean, what are we policing here on that? Because
I mean, I think at least for the first time, I think we just need to make sure, because the list is now a lot longer. So you have 5, but then I just have the concern that somebody's going to say, but I was number 7. Well, if there's a slot open, that, so we just have to communicate that to folks.
yeah, so I just say probably take an employee to go out there and stand and watch people. I mean, they know it goes up an hour ahead. They're probably going to get there so they can get their name on there. And if people are lined up, they're just going to do it in order of where they're standing. Just like all the last time.
Barnhart, and then
I was just going to speak to that and what Ms. Kerbel was saying too. I do, from my recollection, recall I made a motion and we voted, and I think it was a 5-1 passing to allow additional slots with the notations that we were just addressing. In the event that people do not show up, we want to make sure that we're utilizing that up to hour, which is what our policy says. So that was where the conversation of having more signups, it wasn't about limiting people, it was about adding slots. So in the event that people don't show up, we can fill those slots and hear from people.
Oh, yeah, that was, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just for clarification, I didn't mean about that part. I mean, I guess I was curious why we had to have somebody watching out there. Because if
I
it's
can address
clear, then we don't really need someone out there policing people.
Ms. Bradford?
I can address that. In terms of oversight, last month, I mean, I don't think I dreamed this conversation, but we had a pretty good conversation last month about it. But last month with the extra slots there, we had one person get out of a car and try to fill them all. And a staff member went out and said, please don't do that. And they said, oh, okay. They walked away, staff member walked away, they came right back and tried to sign up a bunch of people. That happened like 3 times. So now we need some oversight because not everybody wants to be fair and honest. And that's just the sad way it is.
That's first I heard.
Yes, sir.
If I may, I would recommend that the sign-up sheet, you list 5 places to sign up, have an explanation about additional sign-ups in case someone is not there. And we'll post that ahead of time. Chuck and I will monitor that prior to the meeting.
That sounds perfect. Thank you. All right, carrying on. Any other questions about that? No? Okay. Call to audience is what we just talked about. Information, high school, allied health program.
How much time?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
How much time for which?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, for that one. Okay, good. Yes, ma'am.
No, she was asking how much time. I was asking what exactly we were speaking on, so I was.
The high school allied health program.
Okay. Can you tell me exactly what you need so I know how much time?
That's not what's on the paper.
It says high school allied health.
It says high school allied health program.
Yeah, it
Mine
does. It says that.
So who put it on and
When
what
did that get changed? Because I just looked at this like just a couple hours ago.
Oh, that's, okay, okay. That is, yeah, that was added, that was actually asked first and second back in August, and my fault because I sent it in on a different email. So that probably needs 10 minutes.
But what's it about?
It's that thing, because you seconded it, it was that lady with the nurses.
Oh,
Do I need to prepare anything?
No, ma'am. No. 2022-23 New Hanover County Annual
Hold on.
Accountability Report. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just making sure that we're not voting on anything.
Nothing, that's just information.
And who's presenting it?
Donna was Donna's last name. I don't remember her last name. I do not have it in front of me right now.
are you talking about the lady?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember her last name. Dr. Faust, do you?
You're talking about the health department, Donna Faco, she just left.
No.
Yeah.
We're not having,
Would this be a better discussion for another month? I wonder if there's some
Yeah,
more background.
I think this probably could stand to be put off till November.
We can
I
do
don't
that.
even know what it is.
Especially since it just got added
Okay.
today.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Let's add that to November, so we'll delete A. All right, and we'll get, I'm gonna give myself a note.
And Mr. Wilbur, may I make a suggestion on that? You know, we're going to get to talk about the ad hoc committee, but this is be a perfect example of maybe something that we could settle, solve, talk about, and do with that person talking to somebody at the staff level, or talking to one of us and the staff person, or something to where their information needs can be resolved without having to take up the full board and the public's time with it. So we could test it with that and see if it's something that you know, that could be worked out. I don't know which staff member it would be and all that, but it's easy to figure enough that
Julie,
out.
probably.
If it's, I'm thinking it's CTE, I'm thinking it's,
No,
yeah.
it's probably Julie.
It's the nursing, if it's the nursing program, it's definitely
CTE, yeah.
CTE. I mean, I would love to get some insight and help us.
Okay, I'll
We
put
got a
that-
lot of good things
I'll get
going
that
on with
contact
it, so I want to
information.
know,
Don't
yeah.
worry.
If you think about it, ask me. I have some small amount of information.
Okay.
All right, so A is now gone, till it's delayed for a month, not gone. B is now A, C is now B. 2023 New Hanover County Schools Annual Accountability Report.
What is that?
So
That's you.
Dr. Murray is going to give us a clear update of our data from 2023, and I've asked her to really walk us through the process, because I know this will be the first time that some of our board members have heard the data to this extent. I say that to say, I would say 35 to 40 minutes to allow for questions as well. Is that okay?
Let's say 40 minutes.
Okay.
I'd rather say 40 and.
And when it says accountability report, what does it mean? Is it academic accountability?
Yes, so she actually has a presentation, and it will actually be uploaded shortly. A presentation where it shows you the district's data, and she looks at the district's data, she looks at it versus the state and versus different geographical areas as well.
Very good. Okay, and you said 40 minutes, so we'll add 40 minutes. Thank you, Ms. Crable, for keeping up with that. I did not say that before, Ms. Crable.
Yeah, I would also like to suggest under information, the advanced pathways and specialty programs that we have under consensus, because we're not really voting on that. That's more of information, correct?
It's been moved.
It's been
It's
moved.
in
It's
the
been moved.
information.
Ms. Cravel, do you have the green sheet? We're all working off the green sheet.
Yeah, we're.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I just make a comment? We cannot keep saying, I mean, I literally checked this online before I went to a 12 o'clock meeting, and now we're changing things. And when some of us ask to add things on, the answer is no, hard no. So we've got to get better at that, Pete, because we
I don't-
can't be looking at things
This-
here.
This, first off, to answer your first question, A was added because it was added a month and a half ago, but it was my fault because it was sent, and another thing. C, I don't know anything about it, I didn't add that, so.
See, let
Yeah,
me
please
take,
don't-
see,
don't jump
it
down
was,
my string, you know.
it was already up here, it was just in the wrong place.
Okay, so she.
So you moved it from
she
somewhere
moved
to
it.
information?
Yes, it was under consensus and it should have been discussion.
Okay.
So again, it was moved.
How
It's your
much
information.
30 minutes. This will
information,
be the discussion for dual, I just want to make sure I have what the board had asked me for. This will be the discussion on dual enrollment, AP, and magnet. Not magnet, choice programs.
Okay.
And you told me that we could not do CTE credentials at the same time.
Well, I would like to do some more investigating and looking at some things, because we have some ideas and we're working on some things with CTE. So I would love to present that and share that with you at that time if I could have a little bit more time, if that's okay.
Okay, and Dr. Faison, how long would you need for B?
I'm gonna say 30 minutes because I'm gonna make sure you have time to do questions
Okay,
in
Ms.
between,
Walker?
all of them.
Ms. Walker?
So I guess that was my question, because we had asked for this to be on last one, but we moved it to October. So this is where we're having discussion on magnet schools?
Yes,
And it's staying under information, or it's been moved?
As far as I know, it's
Is
in
it still under
B.
information?
It is
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
It wasn't at noon.
Now, okay, got you, just make sure. And you said 30?
30 minutes,
Yes.
and it's, yeah, B.
Thank you.
And, any other question on that? If not, we're going to consensus items, budget amendment.
What-
Yes, ma'am?
So, I'm sorry, you're going down the list, sorry.
Ma'am?
Well, can we remind us what the budget amendment is, Ms. Ashley?
Ms. Sept?
Yep, so this budget amendment is actually for some capital projects. We've identified savings amounting to, if you look on the attachment, $570,484.05. That we want to transfer $40,000 to the DDC Master System Integration Project. And then we also want to transfer the remaining to, I've got those projects listed there, the Williston Boiler Project, painting, child nutrition freezer door replacement, and New Hanover High School boiler replacement as well. So if the board approves this at the meeting, then I would carry this to the county commissioners for approval next.
Ms. Walker?
Sorry, I have a couple of questions today. I guess this might be for Eddie, because I know I've been corresponding, we've been getting a lot of emails lately about Legion's turf. And I've spoken to Mr. Anderson, and he said it was part of the second year, what did you call it? Their second year budget request for.
So the $200,000, which would be the school system's portion of replacing the turf at Legion Stadium, is included in our capital budget. I anticipate that that would be approved in the next year's capital. We'd receive that funding in July of 2025,
Four, yeah. Yeah.
And I did confirm today that the city and the county are on that same schedule.
Okay.
But I also have spoken to Mr. Sampson, he's the athletic director at New Hanover High School, because I was getting concerns expressed about safety.
Yeah.
And he assured me that between him and his coaches, they have looked at that field. They feel like it is perfectly safe for them to be playing on it. They have not seen any uptick in injuries that would be the result of the turf. And so we're proceeding along that schedule.
Okay, so the follow-up, I guess one last follow-up would be if it's approved in the budget Is the timeline for that like in a year, or how long does it take to replace turf?
I did ask the city, they'll be managing that project. The county and the school system will transfer those funds to the city. They'll be managing the project, and Ms. Beatty said they did not have a timeline for that at this time.
I'll just let them know to contact the city.
Patrick?
Ms. Sutton, you said it's in the attachment or whatever. Do we have that? Is it in Assembly?
Yep, yeah, so it is online. If you click on the budget amendment, you've got
Log in.
an attachment there.
Are you into it?
And
Yeah.
I did want to say, so the description I just gave was for the capital outlay fund amendment, and then there's another one for the other restricted revenue fund, and this is to actually appropriate some of the fund balance that we collected last year through indirect costs that we charged to federal programs, and we want to use that $232,000 to replace the intercom system at Laney that's gone down.
Any other questions about that?
Yeah, I just wanted I have received 3 different emails from parents of the new Hanover High School soccer team that they say that somebody's getting hurt like pretty much every week, several a week. So I don't know what hurt means, in that. So I just wanted to.
So in my discussions with the Mr. Sampson, there are injuries, but none of the injuries are a result of the condition of the turf.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And on the budget transfer, it sounds like a large amount, and I just wanted to point out a little over $370,000 of that is the Hoggard baseball field lighting. We came in under budget on that project, plus FEMA finally approved that project as a mitigation project, and so they paid a large portion of that project. So that's why there's so much savings.
So from Florence? Wow.
From Florence. We still haven't closed it out. We had the 5-year anniversary the other day, and we still haven't closed it out.
That's great.
Right. Keep good diligence there, getting the money eventually. B is MOU with Fayetteville State University. C, Head Start Policy Council bylaws. D, MOU, Mr. Craybill.
I had a question about the Head Start policy bylaws. I didn't see this in there anywhere. But is it an employee benefit that employees can send their kids to our Head Start programs? Or do they have to meet the same criteria as Joe Public?
I would have to check with Mrs. Smiles on that.
I would think they have to meet the criteria because
Yeah,
there's certain
I'm pretty sure they
restrictions.
have to meet the criteria.
Yeah, I know
But
other counties do.
one of the things, and I was going to share this with my correspondence report, but one of the things that our county does really well under your guys' leadership is we commingle the classrooms between Head Start and NC Pre-K in our local classrooms so that it's able to cross-pollinate like the funding sources that we're able to get and maximize that, so that shouldn't be an issue of placing a child in a pre-K program, but it might not be the Head Start label, it might be NC Pre-K, but the programs are structured so that they're getting the same quality no matter where they're at. That makes sense.
You said particularly the Head Start. I'm pretty sure with Head Start, I was thinking all pre-K, but I'm pretty sure that it doesn't matter. You have to meet the guidelines.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I had some questions about that. Okay.
Okay.
And I did notice that it said that an employee can't be on the policy council, right? When I was reading in here on the bylaws, that if one of our employees does have a child there, then they're not allowed to be on the policy council. They can be a parent on the regular part, but they can't be on the policy.
On the policy?
That's what it said in there, so I don't know enough about the details on policy committee of the pre-K versus the regular committee, and, or I guess an employee could be considered a community member, in there, but they're not allowed to, it says in here they're not allowed to be on the policy, so that made me start thinking, are our employees even attending? Are their children, grandchildren, relatives, attending?
I'll check on that. So can our employees be on the policy?
No, I know they can't be. It says it in here.
I
I was just wondering if it was an employee benefit that our
Oh,
employees could send their children there?
I will double check, but I'm gonna say no, they have to meet the guidelines.
Okay.
Okay.
And I would concur, like I say, I'm not an expert on it, but I remember Pender County, that they could.
Yeah, I don't think that, I think it's
Teachers say,
guidelines.
can I get my child,
But they might be in the same classroom as, because we commingle, so they might be in the pre-K class, but it be
Yeah.
mixed with Head Start.
Because there's so many different funding sources, very good point.
Right, so, I don't know if that's what you were getting at, but like.
No, that's what I was. I was
Okay,
just trying to
okay.
figure out the, were they allowed, in the classrooms? Is it an employee benefit that we could send, our kids there?
D is MOU with UNC Chapel Hill. E is.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
So in section 3A6, one of the requirements was that for the university where the principal fellows, it says obtain parental consent prior to requesting data from the district as required under this MOU. So what kind of what kind of student information or what kind of data would they be requesting that we have to get parental permission for?
It would depend on if they're working on a project, I would assume.
Okay.
When you're in the programs doing your internship, there may be, the protocols have actually, just to say the protocols, the courses have changed, so I don't know what they may be asking, but any data, as we would do with anyone, they have to get parental consent.
Well, like
before.
what might they ask? Like,
That's what I was like, I don't know.
Information from like a 6th grade cohort on something.
It wouldn't, I honestly, I don't know, it would be any data that, data, if they're collecting, typically if you're doing a research project, you have to get permission. And so if they're writing papers, they have to get permission if they're using data on our students.
Okay. Even though it's not like Stephanie Crable's name is listed, it would be like the 6th grade cohort.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Parents would still have to have permission.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't, I don't know what they, because they wrote it, so they are protecting themselves if they would get permission.
Okay.
Yeah.
And E is interlocal agreement for the use of Legion Stadium.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I had a question, Ms. Crable, on this. I think it's just the one that we signed recently, right, Eddie, for just your typical re-upping of interlocal agreement?
Well, you'll recall last year, we did just a one-year renewal. So that gave us time to look at what the city's actual expenditures were. And so they were losing money. And so they are requesting, it's $44,168 increase, and that covers their expenses at Legion Stadium, Buck Hardy Field, and Godwin. They're not requesting anything for Robert Strange Park. And so this has gone and it's been approved by the county. It's now coming before the school board, and then it'll go back to the city.
Yeah, we talked about this previously, so this is not new information. I just wanted to, it's showing up now, and I guess people, Scrabble was like, is this, we've already voted on this in the commission.
And this doesn't have anything to do with the arrangement that we have to work concessions and some parents have asked about that. Does this mean that we're going to up the ante that they give our school system, for?
No, there is a profit sharing plan in place, and according to, we got the information from the city, New Hanover never asked to work concessions.
Right, well, I knew that part.
They can work concessions, they get a certain percentage of the proceeds and gross sales. I don't remember offhand what that is, but it has nothing to do with that at all. That opportunity is still there and available for them to do.
Okay.
Mr. Anderson, what happened with the whole concession and alcohol and whatever happened with that?
It just kind of died and went away.
Yeah, it did.
The group that was bringing that before the Legion Stadium Commission, the city had asked a lot of questions and never heard back from them, and so I think it just kind of died and went away.
And I'm guessing that it's probably going to resurface now that Port City FC has signed a contract to play their games. You know, they're an MLS expansion team. And, I mean, my guess is that's coming, that will be on our horizon. You know, we don't know when, but
If they play at Legion.
Well, I think
they are.
the school district's concern would be alcohol and students.
Yeah.
During our games.
During our
Right,
games,
right.
yeah, so I mean, if they want to
Don't
do it
we care
during the whatever, but when we are occupied in the field, I would have a,
Big problem.
That would have to shut
Big
down,
problem,
yeah.
yeah, big problem. Very good. I was gonna ask that question too, because I just saw that newspaper article about that FC group coming
That
out.
has not come from the commission yet, though. And I don't know that would have anything to do with us unless it conflicted with our schedule. Sports schedule.
And I think maybe we need to move the policies for first reading up to policy amendments, correct? Or we just leave it where it is, whichever. We'll just skip policy amendments and go on to new business,
Wait a minute, why are we skipping policy amendments?
because isn't that policies for the first reading? Isn't the same thing?
No.
Okay, all right. Then we have policy amendments next.
So my question there was, why is this policy consensus? Because if it's policy amendments, that means it implies that we vote on each one individually, and I didn't think that was what the intent was. And so I apologize for missing the policy committee meeting. I was out of town and, you know, tried to provide my feedback on as many of these things as I could. But the policy amendments, the things that are listed there, are we going to vote on those in a big lump, or are we going to vote on them individually?
Mr. Chair, I have no problem with it being policy consensus, and
So,
I'm sure I can work with Ms. Bowie to change the title to be
Okay.
policy consensus, which is what.
So if, okay.
So it would bump up into F?
Basically, I was a little confused by it, because I know, I remember when we were on the board before, all of a sudden it got changed to policy consensus, and that confused me, because I feel like it used to be first reading, second reading. First reading was obviously we wait for 30 days for the public input, but the second reading is usually what it all should go under. Now we've got amendments, consensus, like I'd like to keep it as orderly as possible.
Well, the difference there is
Yeah.
that once you have once you have a policy and you amend, you don't have to go through first and second reading.
Right, I know, well, and that's
And so
what I'm
that's why
saying.
we moved to consensus.
Oh, that was a change.
That was why we moved it to consensus. Knowing that you can pull off any one that you want.
Okay. So I guess be prepared for that, because it'll probably happen. So we
All
put
right.
all the policy amendments under consensus, and then we just do what we regularly do. Okay. I was just confused by the amendment thing.
Okay.
Ms. Bonner?
And so I just spoke with Ms. Bowie, so whenever we were doing the policy meeting, that's how it just transferred over, and
Okay.
so this can be renamed. This is
Policy
not an
consensus,
issue, should not
okay.
be an issue. As far as the organizational aspect of it from our end, and my end as policy chairperson, the amendments / consensus item, yes, are the policies that we already currently have in place that are getting updated. Policies for first readings are the ones that are new to the board, we talked about to potentially adopt, but you have to go through a first and second reading to go through the adoption. That is why you see another section of a second reading policy, because last month we had a first reading, so that's coming back for a second reading prior to being adopted to our policy manual. So if this is becoming a confusion, if the formatting issue is not a concern at all and can absolutely be adjusted. So I just, direction on that, and we'll move forward in that direction.
Well, I think consensus might be a better terminology.
So policy consensus, that can be done. What else needs to be
Can you
done?
put it under old I mean, does it have to have its own line? Can it go under old business like the rest of them?
Who? It's not necessarily.
Policies for first
Yeah,
reading?
There's like 3 different sections for
Yeah,
policy.
that bothers me. Can we not like put all 3 of them in, like,
Policy.
under policies?
Yeah, yes. Under old business, I feel.
I don't care where you put it, but I just kind of like them to be together.
Can.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be fine.
Can we just put them together in the same order
So
that
have
they are?
policy consensus, policies for first reading, policies for
Yes.
second reading.
Yeah, 1, 2,
Like
3.
under A, B, C.
Absolutely.
good.
Awesome.
That would be,
So
is
that'd
that
be
a
under
business way?
16?
Well, actually, you could just, yeah.
Leave
you
it under
just-
16, just say policy, and then have the 3 underneath it. That would be
Yeah.
fine with me.
So then policy consensus.
Can we all agree on
policies for
that?
first.
Everybody good with that? Mr. Manis, you okay? Okay.
So consensus then would be 5 minutes, unless we pull things off.
Right.
And do you want to know items that we're going to pull off right now, or do
That
you
would be
want to
now,
wait?
because that would
Okay.
be
Good.
So, do you want to do yours, Melissa?
I've got a few.
Okay.
2120, 2310, 2330, 3210, and I was a little puzzled by 4720.
Okay, I had those, and I also had 2315 to pull off.
2315 is a,
Second reading.
Yeah, well, I'm just
Good, get it.
getting ready for it.
Okay. Let's stick to this to begin with, so we know we can pull up. Any others, Ms. Walker, anything? Anybody else? Okay, so then everything else we'll we'll just highlight those, pull those off. So we said 5 minutes for the consensus.
Yeah.
And we had 4, we pulled off, I believe, is that right, Ms. Mason?
5.
5? 5 off of this list.
5 from
So
consensus,
probably
yes.
another, at least 20 minutes, I would think.
20, okay.
Does 20 sound good to everybody?
At least.
At least, let's say 25, so that way we, Ms. Walker, I'd rather be, if we're done a little bit early, nobody ever complains.
Yes.
All right, very good. So the next one under policies now would be policies for first reading.
So how the, if you look at what you guys did at the policy committee meeting, we really don't have to talk about these, at this meeting unless people have questions.
Right.
But I do think that we do need to have some explanation about, fraternization, on where that came from. It was from an old policy, but my question on that one was, why is it even though we're pulling it up from the old manual, shouldn't it be in the 7,000 series? Like, can we renumber it? Because 6,000 is not the series that it should be in.
Yeah, it was my understanding that I think that was just a reference that it was an old policy. We will obviously, I would assume, change it to a 7,000 number.
But if we're calling it for a first reading, I think we should go ahead and make the number change. So we can
Okay.
ask McKenna, to give us a number, for that, that's easy. And then can I keep going?
Please.
So then for policy 7205, that one was kind of like way out of left field for me. There wasn't much written up on it when I was looking before the meeting. So I did some research, and it looks like Cabarrus County has a policy 7205, and they also have a policy 7200, so I didn't know if that one was going to be coming next. But there are 7 counties that have the items in letter Z. Letter Z is what is causing me a whole bunch of, anxiety. And there's like 7 counties that have the semblance of that wording, but in other policies. And then there's more that have them, the letter Z, under some curriculum and instruction policy. So I think we're going to have to talk about that one just a little bit more.
Okay.
So-
Why don't we allow 10 minutes for, because there's only 2 policies, so that gives us 5 minutes for each policy. We need to talk about them.
Okay.
All right, and then we have, our last one would be policy, I'm sorry, was your hand up?
Yeah, I
I'm
guess
sorry.
this time we're supposed to be asking questions. Are we just going to do that at the meeting? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm fine to leave it to the meeting if you want. That way I can make sure I have the right questions. Because obviously I didn't attend the policy committee meeting. I'm not on policy committee, so I leave it up to other folks to let us know why they made the changes they did, what it aligns with, so I can.
Go ahead and ask.
But it's first reading, well, I don't know enough about it yet, so
Okay.
I mean, if it's first reading, we're not approving it anyway, so it's like.
Right, we
yeah.
don't approve it then anyway.
So I'll look at it and have questions, I'll just ask.
Awesome. All right, and then we have last policies for second reading.
There's one, and somebody wanted to pull it.
Yeah, I'm going to want to discuss that one. Because that was one that we sent back to policy, and the committee members who were there didn't even discuss any of the input that we, as a whole board, gave them, which was very frustrating. Number 5 was the only thing that we asked you to look at, and they didn't even discuss it at all. And they didn't discuss adding a Fourth Circuit legal reference, Lund versus Rowan, so we're gonna have to talk about that.
Okay, well, let's give that one 10 minutes, 'cause it's-
And Ms. Barnhart, question, policy 5008 was not listed anywhere. That was the messaging one. I think it might have just gotten inadvertently left off.
Yeah, I'd have to look back. I mean, I know the one that you're talking about, that was a policy for first reading that should be coming back for second reading.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
I cannot recall, that one was a first reading, that was a first reading policy from 2 months ago?
And it didn't have to go back. All you did at the last meeting, the September meeting, was you talked about the wording change, there was like a small little wording change on messaging, you know, what kind of messaging.
Correct, it was notifications, not.
One of the,
text
yeah,
messages.
that we were gonna change, and it didn't show up here, so I just,
I'll make sure to put it on for next meeting.
for second reading?
Correct.
Yeah.
for
For
October
this meeting or November?
No, the following meeting, since it's not.
November, okay, very good. All right, we will carry on then.
So how much time are we gonna give that?
10 minutes, is that? 10 minutes, five for each. New business, now A would be Soil and Water Committee. That is a committee that is actually an elected official that would like to come in and talk to us and work with Dr. Faison in the future to be able to support our CTE programs, I think, and other programs. Ms. Barnhart, did you have anything else on that?
Sure, I have been engaged in dialogue with a couple individuals from the Soil and Water Board, and they have a lot of part of their strategic plan's goals is to support our schools, specifically in the realm of gardening and agriculture. And so some of their goals is to have gardens in every single one of our elementary schools, and so to strengthen that CTE pathway. So then the discussion became whether or not this board was interested in potentially creating a liaison position to be sitting on the Soil and Water Board so that we're aware of what they provide. It's already a resource that the county already funds, and so to loop in the right people to make sure that we're plugging them in to make them to make the most to make the biggest connection and unification for our county. And so the individuals would come in and present, and I just got confirmation via email a few minutes ago that they will be able to be here in less than a 10-minute presentation, allow us to ask questions, and potentially consider the opportunity to create another board liaison position to Soil and Water.
Ms. Walker?
Well, first, it's just information, it should probably be under information one, but two,
Yeah.
I imagine if we had any kind of whatever position, they'd have to approve it on the state level. It's a county level position, select position.
Ms.
So-
Barnhart, did you foresee us having to take a vote on anything?
Yeah, the discussion would be whether or not we wanted to create a liaison position for the
Oh, they
school
have to stay
district
there.
on their board. That would be the discussion.
I
of
think we should have a
questions.
discussion and you vote on it another time, because like, I don't know enough about it, there were no attachments. I know Evan very well, and I know he's very interested in connecting with the schools, I think a lot of us do. But I don't want to be forced into a decision until I mean, you hear a presentation, you don't have information, and then we're gonna decide, and I feel like there's other layers here we don't know, which is, if it's a county position, they're gonna have to have an agreement with us as well, like, we're gonna have a position on there. It's different with Legion, it's different with Parks and Gardens, because we have funding links and things like that we have to agree to. So I don't really wanna be thrown in a position where I have to vote on something now. I would like to just have information, and then we can decide and look at what their paperwork is and their MOU, whatever it is that we've got to agree to. I don't want to do that in like 5 minutes.
Okay. Ms.
Yeah,
Quinn?
and then just to that point, there was nothing in the main points at all. It just says for discussion and possible action. So how can we possibly be expected to vote on something when we don't even know what the possible actions are? So, and I think we talked about that at the last board meeting, and Ms. Bradford is going to bring up again in the ad hoc, that it is incumbent upon us to put in the recommendations, but I am with you, Ms. Walker. I'm not ready to vote on something that we just hear about. So my suggestion would be to move that up to information, and if we're interested, we can think about it, and then we can put it on, we can do some more homework on that, because right now the only person that knows anything about it is Ms. Barnhart. The rest of us don't.
Okay, so anybody want to make, yes, ma'am?
I'd just like to throw in a penny cents worth of thought there. this board has the ability to create policy, vote on it at the moment. We do. And we keep getting further and further. Oh, let's put that off a month, let's put off that month. We have that ability. So it would be the will of the board if we want to move something forward. But we have the ability to create policy in the middle of a meeting and vote on it and make it happen. It's a part of the privilege of sitting on a board that you have that if it's the majority will of the board. And I don't want to ignore that fact. I'm not saying I know anything about this or whatever, but obviously it was brought, now, once we get into the ad hoc recommendations, yeah, they recommend we do a whole lot more background there, but never forget that we do have the ability to create policy right here in this room, right here in these chairs. That's what we were elected to do.
I had my hand up first. I've been waiting. I've been trying not to be rude. I didn't want to cut Ms. Bradford off. I get that point. I absolutely know that. I've been on the board 3 years now. I know how easy it is for the majority to do whatever they want. That's not the point here. The point is there was no description. There's no explanation. We shouldn't be making that kind of a change before we know anything about it. And I think it's just fair play to do that with every board member. You know, I know what we can do with the numbers, but that's not the point. I just think it's respectful of all the rest of us that we have as much information as possible and that not having to be forced to make a decision on something that's going to take a tiny bit longer. I'm not saying take a year, but just give us a chance to know what we're talking about, what we might have good ideas that we can throw in the mix. It's just, I know the power of what we have. I just don't want to force us to do stuff like this.
Ms. Barnhart, and then Ms. Craybill.
The whole point of discussion, my apologies, I had reached out to the gentleman. They were not able to get me the documents on time to have a PowerPoint to upload for today's discussion. And so they will have it, they said by noon tomorrow. So I'll forward it to the board so that they can look at the presentation and see. The point of this discussion was to see an opportunity for possibility for our students. And so it's been a few times now that because I have been bringing something forth that there's been pushback to have a discussion about this, when the reality is this is supposed to enhance the abilities for our students. We heard a presentation without documentation for teacher voice last month and made a motion and approved it to be added to our agenda item consistently. Foul swoop, we all agreed, because it was just a good idea. So I do not understand why there's hesitation for a potential opportunity for us to make a decision when we're here together on an open dais to make positive change for our students. So while I understand what's being said, I have no problem once I receive the materials to share those out, but I don't have them at this time. The intent behind it, like I said, was a liaison position so that we can potentially enhance our CTE and our vertical alignment for our students.
Ms. Craybill.
Yes, so my point is not that there's no handout. My point is where it says recommendation for action and next steps, where a lot of time, most of the time it says main points. And under main points, you talk about what we're going to talk about. And I'm just going to quote from Ms. Bradford's recommendations where it says, to be placed on the agenda for agenda briefing or board vote or discussion, a topic needs to be fully fleshed out, completely described as to what information needs discussion and or a vote. There must be clear and consistent expectations for senior staff of what needs to be presented to them. And I would add in to board members so that we know what's expected of us. So this is not the first time that we've had things come on our agenda without a description. So that is what my problem was about that. Yeah, and then to Ms. Bradford's point, we have the ability to make policy on the fly. Well, we have a policy committee, and the policy committee is the one who develops the policy and amendments and then sends it to the board. So we need to be clear on that we don't develop policy on the fly.
Well, also, I would like to add, since everybody else had an opportunity to speak, except for Ms. Mason, and we will get an opportunity, but we also have other avenues, like we can table something. So if we if we get this documentation tomorrow, we look it over, we have until next Tuesday to look it over, then we have the Soil and Water Committee come in, we can either vote on it or we can choose to table it at that point. So we still have that ability. It's not like, well, we have to vote, there's no doubt, you have to vote, you have to vote. there is the opportunity to say, well, let's think about it, as Ms. Walker said. Let's think about it. I'm not ready to vote, you're not ready to vote. Let's table it for a month. That's an option. If we all get in and, I think Evan is the man's name that Evan Cole will be presenting. If we all sit
He
there and
will be
say.
out of town, so it's going to
Oh.
be Drew and Thomas that are coming.
Okay.
And I've also spoken with Frank Mears, who's involved in their education realm on soil and water. Both of them are out of the country, or one is out of the country, one is out of the state at conferences working with networking opportunities. So again, this was just an opportunity and something, the reason why I asked to put on the agenda, for us to openly have a discussion about potential opportunities to enhance the education of our students, which is, I thought, our job to do, so.
Ms.
Okay.
Barnhart, is this,
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
is this are these the same gentlemen that we do our program with at Winter Park?
So they work with soil and water, yes.
Garbage to gardens.
No,
Miss-
that's gardens to garbage, and that comes
Oh,
from
yeah,
the
that's-
Arboretum. And that's what I was thinking, if we're talking about those kind of, soils, then Matt Collagen would love to have the same opportunity if we're talking about that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's not the same group.
Okay.
Ms. Walker.
So this last point I'll make on this, I feel like it's fine to bring things, I think it's perfectly right to do it, but what feedback you're getting is, please let us hear it first. Let us know what we're agreeing to, let us know if there's gonna be official MOUs that we need to talk about, or whatever. It doesn't mean we can't do it, and I have no doubt everybody here wants to do what's best for the school district, so like, that's not a question. No one's going, oh, we hate your idea. It's just, let's do it properly and not be forced to vote on things just because, and to your point about tabling, well, we know how that works. If somebody wants to push something forward, they're gonna do it. So I just wanna do it the information way and not be forced to worry about something that we don't have control over yet.
Would you like to make a motion?
Oh, can I do that now?
Please do. Well, I mean, if we want to move it, you want to
I would
move
just
it
like to, I would like to make a motion to move it to information for now, and then we can bring it back next month, just to give us a chance to absorb the information, hear the presentation, see what they want to do with us, which it's probably some great ideas. I've talked to Evan myself, I mean, they have really great ideas. I'm not opposed to it, but let's do it like in a proper manner.
Okay, we have a motion to move
Move
it
this-
from from new business to information. Is there a second?
Second, I don't even really think we need a motion, I think we can just do it, but
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
we can do it, but
second.
we need to have, the consensus of the board. Any discussion? If not, would you call roll, please, Ms. Bowie? So this is to move it from new business to information for this month.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart?
No,
Mr. Wildebohr?
Yeah, no, yes.
Ms. Bradford?
No.
Ms. Mason?
Yes.
Ms. Graybill?
Yes,
And Mr. McManus?
Based upon what's it? Well, we'll say.
you're on mute, Hugh.
Hugh, can you hear us?
Looked like he unmuted, but then it muted that.
What's that red thing in the corner?
Yeah, he muted it.
Okay.
Mr. McManus, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, now we can.
I said yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
So
No one's ever
we'll-
asked me to speak up
We'll move
before.
that to information for this month.
letter C.
Letter C,
Josie, how much time?
I think you said 10 minutes.
I said 15 minutes, so that allowing for a 10-minute presentation and 5 minutes for questions.
Okay, 15 minutes. All right, moving on to old business now. Policies are out. So now letter A is the agenda ad hoc. We already have 15 minutes for that.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk about it for a minute.
Go ahead.
Because I did what you asked, and I would like to make this an actionable item for the meeting, so I'm putting you on notice now. I'd like to see a vote. I am really ready to move forward and apply myself to some other task in my life besides this. Been working on it for about 3 months now. So you all have a copy of it on your agendas. You can review it. It put little red notes in there. I did exactly what was asked, except I added the bottom number 2 because it was just right there and it was already written out. I have straight recommendations, so I'm going to bring forward a motion to accept them as they're written. So I really ask you to be prepared. And if there's some on there that you'd like to pull out for discussion, now would be a good time to tell me. Our committee of Ms. Mason and Mr. McManus have reviewed them and reviewed them and reviewed them and reviewed them. And so we'd like to move forward with this if it's the will of the board.
So I guess the question at this point, is there anything that we want to pull off? Ms. Walker had her hand up.
Well, I've had some discussions about stuff that wasn't on there before that was approved. I don't know, probably not saying it right, because I wasn't part of the ad hoc committee, but and anybody, I feel like the first version I read, it's got something extra on it, so. I left my copy at home, I apologize, I don't have it in front of me, I'm gonna pull it up right now, but I can give you more explanation.
Yeah, the versions have changed now about 20 times,
Okay.
so they've morphed.
You look at that one, I'll go to Ms. Graybill.
So one of the problems that I had after listening to the policy committee meeting was that some of the policies that we're going to be talking about were mentioned that they were putting forth these policy changes because they met the requirements of the ad hoc committee, which we haven't even voted on yet. So that was troublesome to me, that we were supposing that this was already going to go through with that. And so if we're talking about, and so then I started thinking about the policies for consensus. If we are going to be looking at our consensus items at the agenda review, are we going to now be expected to look at policy consensus at agenda review? Because their consensus, I mean, she was trying to get everything that she could, committee, on there to be official business of the board. So I guess I need a definition on what is business of the board. You know, several times I heard in the meeting that it was talking about non-essential information. Well, if we have non-essential information, why are we talking about it? You know, we need to definitely decide that. And where are we going to vote at the agenda review? I mean, these are all things, you don't have to answer me now, but these are all things that I'm going to bring up. Are we voting at the agenda review? Because that is business of the board. If that's what if I'm interpreting this correctly. And then when we're looking at, I found it interesting when we were counting up the number of headings that we had, and we wanted to reduce our number of headings. Well, 6 of the headings are all ceremonial. Roll call, national anthem, all that kind of stuff. So that takes off 2. 2 items are to approve the agenda and minutes, so now we're up to 8. And 3 of the headings we have were for policy. So now we're at 11, which is half of the 22, and down at the bottom it says we're not going to have any more than 12. So I don't think that we should be limiting it by our number of headings, because things may change in there. And then when we're talking about the optional closed session, only by a supermajority, if we need a closed session to discuss a hot topic or an issue, then we need a closed session, and we shouldn't have to have 5 people, say that we need to be able to answer those questions. And then other in information, when we're talking about, I don't know why we're taking out correspondence, because that's the only place that a board member gets to bring up something that is not on the agenda. And Robert's Rules of Order is part of our policy, and I wrote it down on another piece of paper. But in the trainings that we have all had, is that Robert's Rules of Order should not run us. We use what we need for the advantage of the size of board that we have. Because Robert's Rules are really designed, and we've heard it 3 times now, some of us, for large boards. They're not designed for small 7-people boards. So to use that as our only reason that we're taking it out, I don't think is a good idea. So those are some of the kinds of things that I'm going to be bringing up.
Ms. Mason?
My biggest concern, and I did bring this to Ms. Bradford's attention, was that at the last meeting, when we were discussing this, we discussed that we were only going to be taking action on 3 topics. And that was the agreement that the board had come to. So it's concerning that that was added, and I did bring that up to Ms. Bradford, so she's aware of my concern. That would be my biggest one.
All right, Ms. Bradford?
Just to push back on that a little bit, we said concentrate on. The word only was never used. I went back and listened to the board meeting. We were going to concentrate on those. So it was you know, it was a part of it, and don't want to have to come back to this anytime soon, you're more than welcome to vote no on all 3 of those. But we never said it's only going to be this. It was focus on these, and they have been focused. And in terms of correspondence, Roberts doesn't have it as an example of their suggested agendas. And if you are going to insist on having correspondence, and you're going to insist on having a 2 or 3 minute talk to the public, then we're going to have to magnify that by 7, which is going to make our board meetings get really, really long. Correspondence means I got a piece of mail, and this is what it said. It was written back when they did communications by mail. They didn't do it with text and email and all the other platforms we have. So unless it's about a letter, you shouldn't be making public statements to the media or your friends or your constituents or whatever under correspondence. It's for mail. And it should be mail that's not coming, you know, as a personal message to you or in support of your campaign or whatever. And again, it's not a part of Roberts' suggested. Roberts is what we have a policy that says we're going to follow. So we either follow Roberts, it's not an a la carte menu, you either follow it or you don't.
That's not true, and you'll find that out.
Ms. Grable?
Mr. Wilbur, let me just provide a little bit more clarity. Part of the discussion on the dais last month was because we had policies in place, we weren't even going to consider recommendations. So part of, and I believe there's certain board members saying that they would like to see what the changes in policy would look like in order to move forward with some of the ad hoc committee suggestions. So that was the justification to bring forth what those changes are. The policy committee does not act on behalf of the board. Everything comes to the board for discussion and ultimately approval. So that is what we did with those policies. If it's not the will of the board to make the changes, it doesn't have to be. But in order for us to discuss the ad hoc committee changes, the concern became, we want to see what it looks like in policy to make those changes. So that's where the discussion on the policy side of things came into play for this. Not saying we're not going to touch it because policy didn't touch it. Well, we are the board, and if you direct me as a policy chairperson to discuss something, we're going to discuss it in the committee.
Ms. Grable?
And to that point, it would appear that 2 people on the policy committee had already discussed those, because I wasn't aware of any of those until I listened to the policy committee. So that's what we have to just kind of keep ourselves together on 2 people do not make the committee.
And I would like the opportunity to talk back to the allegation.
Ms. Walker's next, and then I'll get to you. Ms. Walker?
So I have a logistical question. Are we voting on each one of these recommendations separately? Because I feel like some of us have issues with certain ones and not others.
And
I don't know how it speaks to policy also. And I feel like if we do make some of these changes, we should revisit whether they're working or not. Because I feel like they're not all going to work. I mean, we might find that we don't like the way we're doing it, or we need to maybe go back to the way we're doing things. So logistically, I would.
You could make it in the form of a motion. I do this for 6 months, 3 months, 1 month.
Barnhart?
For the whole thing.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean, are you done?
Well, I know it's follow-up because I didn't get an answer. Are we voting on each individual recommendation?
That would be a motion that we would, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
you make a
we can
motion.
pull it off, and you can, take any.
Pretend
I
like
just don't
it's
want to
an
get
MOU.
locked in where 4 folks know they're going to vote for all of it, and we don't get a chance to vote on individual ones that perhaps we have an issue with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know how that's been working lately, and I mean.
Mr.
as a
Chairman, that's
major-
not how it's been working.
Sir,
Ms.
can you not
Directly,
interrupt me,
that
Ms.
makes
Barnhart,
sense.
please?
Let her finish.
It's not your time to talk. So I feel like if I'm gonna have a voice on these and I really have legit concerns, I don't do it in a personal way because that's not how I do business. I really wanna make sure we're doing this properly. And so if there's one on here that, you know, perhaps I don't like, if someone wants to go ahead and just know it all over and just like vote on all of them, then I get no input, and that's gonna bother me a lot. So, that's why I asked the question about whether we're gonna do each one, or are we gonna, they say recommendations here.
How is the ad hoc committee going to present it, I guess, is the question, is what you're asking.
Well, after spending so much time with it, you know, I would love to see it just all go, but not in this board. So, you know, if you have,
Mr. Chair,
Oh, Ms. McManus.
Mr. McManus? Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm on that committee, and our purpose, our sole purpose, and I think everybody approved of that, was to come to some type of recommendations to limit and reduce our meeting times.
Yeah.
But if we have 2 or 3 people, we need to agree to disagree. So if we need to rehash and to revisit and listen, then I think that's appropriate. I don't think that this is gonna change anyone's life if we postpone it and redo it, or call some type of the next agenda meeting. If we don't agree, we're not gonna advance the base of our board. And so I'm listening and trying not to say a whole lot because I'm behind the screen, and I apologize, but it's, I'm just listening, and it's a whole different perspective when you're not there. And I don't like where we're going, and if bringing this back up for discussion is what we need to do to make it better, then I think that's what we should do. Just set it aside, or however you want to legally, move it to another meeting and revisit it.
So you're making a motion, Mr. McManus, to...
Well, I want to make an emotion. Do I have to make a motion?
Well, that's what we're kind of... Well, so your point, I guess, we'll say it that way, is that you would like to set this aside and maybe take it back up in November. Is that your point?
Well, I think it's fair. I mean, obviously, there's considerable questions, and I don't think that's good to go ahead at this point.
Well,
I agree with some of these things, and I agree that some of these things could be changed. But our whole point was to reduce our meetings, and that's very important to how we get along and the success of what we're doing. And I'm just listening. We're spending more time talking about procedures and the arena of policy, which is vital to our success. And so if that's what we need to do, is to revisit it, and however you want to coin that, that's what we need to do. At least that's my suggestion.
All right, thank you, sir. Why don't you...
Thank you.
You were in the middle of your conversation.
I think was that Mr. Vogel who was trying to chime in, or was that you?
That's you.
Okay.
I'm going to let Ms. Bradford finish because she was in the middle of her conversation when I cut her off from Mr. McManus.
The charge was to reduce the meeting time, shorten the meetings and make them more efficient, and have both the agenda review meeting and the board meeting go more smoothly and efficiently. You had a bipartisan ad hoc committee that has worked for months. This is the second time it was sent back. You ask us to consolidate it, make it just recommendations. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 total. And between now and next week, surely there'll be time to review those and have an opinion of whether you want to vote yes, we should do it, or no, we shouldn't do it. Personally, I'm at the point where I don't really care what we vote, but I would really like to move on. And if, Mr. Chairman, I'm at the point where if this part of the board just doesn't want it, then let's just move on. We can get our 6 shooters and come in here and shoot these things out and have a 10-hour meeting every time. It's okay, if that's what y'all want. But the goal was to reduce the amount of time that we're here in the meetings. We did that task. We have recommendations. Now it'll be a week from today, time to vote on them. In whatever form you want, 1 at a time, 2 at a time, all at once, I don't care.
Why don't we go ahead and go on from here? I think that the idea, we've talked about it. We can go ahead and go, 1 recommendation at a time. Maybe we take 6 out of 10 or 2 out of 3 or whatever else. We can talk about it at length today, or we can, take it piece by piece. Somebody can just make a motion next week. So we take each suggestion separately. We can discuss it. We can say yay or nay. I don't think there's any reason, unless somebody's got a reason, why we can't take some of them and not all of them, or all of them, or none of them. I think that's what we'll do next week. Ms. Walker, why don't you take us
This is the time
on?
we talk, so that's why we're doing it. That's why I have more questions. So I like a lot of these. I'm not opposed to some of them, but then every time I look at a document, it has different things on it. So if we're gonna do it, I'd rather not just go ahead, let's just go ahead and do them all because you just want to be done with it. I just don't think that's how we should do it, so. I mean, there was a question about removing correspondence. I didn't think I'd seen that one before. So, I mean, look, I know people are tired. This is the process, though. Sadly, politics sometimes moves slow, and we want to get it right. And I'm all for making our meetings shorter. They don't seem to be getting shorter, I'll be honest, because I feel like, I don't know, Ms. Crable, what are we up to now?
Well, we're up to right now 235 minutes.
I mean,
and that's without breaks, and that's without a closed session should we need it.
I'm just saying. I mean, I know it's for the best and the better. I do like a lot of these on here, but some I really don't. So, I mean, as long as we're not going to get a surprise vote where we're just going to have to vote on all of it, I'm okay to kind of maybe go through and vote on the ones that we do agree on, because so there's some good ones in there.
All right, sounds good. We'll carry on with legal services, 15 minutes.
So can I just make one closing comment? When I was adding up, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff on here that we could easily do. But if you look closely between now and Tuesday, all we're doing is shifting the long meeting from Tuesday night to Tuesday in the afternoon, which I think is good for you guys because you're on the clock. But you gotta go home. So it's all we're doing is just shifting shifting the time. So just keep that in mind as you're reading through.
Okay, thank you. Back to old business, C, legal services, then
Mr.
D.
Chair?
Yes, ma'am?
I'd like to make sure that we allocate 1 hour and 16 minutes. I'd like to make sure all of our board members have enough time to ask all their questions that they want, as well as, I think, the discussion
1
of
hour,
Mr.
15 minutes?
Vogel proving himself. So yeah, 1 hour and 16 minutes was how much we allotted last month, and I want to be thorough for this month as well.
Okay.
What was that, adding
She
more
wants an
time?
hour.
1 hour and 16 minutes to make sure that all of the questions get answered.
1 hour and 16 minutes?
Yes, ma'am, that's
Pretty
how much we
precise.
spent last month.
Oh,
Oh,
but you want to add the same amount of time?
Yeah, to make sure everyone's questions get answered.
I have a question.
okay, Ms. Bassford,
Okay.
then you.
If I understand it correctly, Ms. Mason, you put this on, and it is under old business, so it's actionable, so it won't surprise anyone if we have a vote.
Correct.
Just wanted to make sure that was out there.
And just to let everybody know, because there were some questions, who seconded it? Ms. Mason asked me if I would second it, and I said yes. So there it is, in case anybody's dying to know.
Here.
Yes, ma'am?
I have a big question on this, because we agreed last time to wait till December, but I feel like we're wanting to ram this through. And I'm telling you, I mean, as folks that have oversight over public money we spend, I would like to have a good look at how we're spending our money. And I don't care at Farrington anymore, they're gone. So, like, I just feel like, every month this is coming up, and coming up. We should wait until December, like we said originally. I don't know what's wrong with that, except that I guess people feel like they have the votes to do it. And I just think, again, I don't understand why we're doing things this way. I mean, if we set our time on 6 months, we should set it 6 months instead of continually having this come up. I feel like maybe the votes are there, so that's why it's happening. So, I mean, I just don't think that's a responsible thing to do.
Okay, Ms. Crable?
So I went back and listened to the meeting, and Ms. Mason said 2 months is not enough time for Vogel to prove themselves. So now I'm just wondering how, over the course of 2 weeks, now he's had plenty of time to prove himself. And after looking through the unredacted list that we got just from last month, it appears that the board and vice chair get updated on a lot of information that the rest of us don't. So that is troublesome to me. I mean, there are certain things the board chair has to know. I understand that. I've been in that seat. But when it shows up over and over and over, board chair, board vice chair, and like the ACLU complaint was one thing, we never even knew about that until the first time I heard about it was when it got brought up at policy committee meeting. So how does that person know and the rest of us don't know? So I'm just concerned that, and then I was looking through some of the things where perhaps, our legal counsel inserts themselves where we haven't necessarily asked. So I just think we need to watch that a little bit more and talk about that, and get some input, at Dr. Faust's will of, from our senior staff, just like we did. We got input when we were changing law firms, And I don't want to put you on the spot right this minute, but I think that that is worth discussion on how do the primary client, I mean, he represents us, but if you look at this list, the primary work is supporting the work that you all do. And so, I don't know if anybody will say anything, or Dr. Faust can say something on behalf of them, but I just think we need a little more time, and I'm waiting to see the next month, to see if it kind of lays out the same as this month. And I'm still just reeling with the surprise attack on, let's vote on it, and then now let's change our mind that we're gonna vote on it, because I feel that there were some extenuating circumstances that led to this change.
Thank you. Carrying on with our budget resolution, how much time do we need for that?
So, are you serious that you want an hour for this?
No.
Absolutely.
1
hour and 16 minutes.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, we're staying with
I
15,
just
so we're
gave.
carrying on.
We're staying with 15?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If we can do it maybe 15 minutes, but if we
15
want to
minutes.
allow some additional time for questions.
All righty, committee reports, Head Start, we have 5 minutes already
How much did you
allotted.
say, Ashley? I'm sorry.
15
I was,
minutes.
okay. I was
15, yeah.
ciphering.
ACES committee, ACES, something you need for that?
Maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes also. Legislative committee,
I can make it in
Okay.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Are there any other committees that would like to report that I've missed? No. Correspondence, announcements, closed session, and adjournment. I think we are done. Let me make sure we have anything else. Yes, of course. At this point, we're going to, I would entertain a motion to move into closed session. Is this a new one? Okay, we're going to change that. I'm glad I didn't start. Call for a motion to move into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 316, 11A, 1, 3, and 6, to consider personnel matters and maintain the confidentiality of personnel records under North Carolina General Statute 115C, 319 through 321, to consult the board's attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege, and to consult the board's attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege in connection with the book review appeal process. John Doe's 114, New Hanover County Board of Education et al., 19 CVS 2745, and Jane Doe's 12 versus New Hanover County Board of Education et al., 20 CVS 1395, and Jane Doe 3 versus New Hanover County Board of Education et al., 21 CVS 4704, consolidated matters, and to discuss LH versus New Hanover County Board of Education, 23 EDC 3838. We have a motion, second?
Second.
We have a first and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes 7-0, we are in closed session. She's here. All right, so we're back in open session. The next bit of information or business, excuse me, not information, but next bit of business
Get back in time.
is to approve the personnel report. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, we have first and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? I'm gonna say he's showing up there, so I'm gonna say he's here, so we have 6-0.
Well, he didn't say it. You have to listen to him.
Mr. McManus? Is he there?
Not yet, not audio.
There he is.
There he is. Well, it was alive.
Mr. McManus, we just voted on the personnel report. Do you agree? Mr. McManus? Mr. McManus? Okay, we'll pass that 5-0 then. That's all we need.
Motion to adjourn.
Approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes.
Oh, I move we approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say, any question, any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. And now a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a first, do we hear a second? Somebody wants to go home. Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, board members. All right. Walkers on that, walk out. Walk about.
I feel like you're like that guy.